The Oracle of Luna is a podcast with me, Bridget Engels, as your host. Here we have conversations with real live, present-day goddesses who are actively and courageously doing their magical work in the world. Each episode is a bewitching journey with relevant discussions on topics such as Wiccan pagan spirituality, writing, culture, magical practices, art, ritual, and the craft in its many forms. Merry meet! Welcome to another episode of the Oracle of Luna podcast. I'm Bridget Engels, your host, and today I'm very excited to chat with Lilith Dorsey. Lilith hails from many magical traditions. Their magical training includes many initiations in Lucumi, Haitian Vodoun, and New Orleans Voodoo. Lilith is also a Voodoo Priestess, and she's a filmmaker of the documentary Bodies of Water, Voodoo Identity and Tranceformation, and also a choreographer and performer for Dr. John's Night Tripper Voodoo Show. They are a proud published Black author of Voodoo and Afro-Caribbean Paganism, Orishas, Goddess and Voodoo Queens, Water Magic, and the newly released Tarot Every Which Way from Llewellyn Books. Welcome, Lilith.
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm really happy that you're here. So, yeah, how's your day going?
It's going. It's New Orleans, so it's hot, but that's what we got, right?
Yeah, I'm here in Vegas and it's a little muggy because it actually rained the other day.
Wow, we're about to have a drought, so that's not
Ugh.
fun. Drought in the
Oh,
swamp. Yeah, yeah.
well, I have a lot to unpack here. So, are you about ready to get rolling here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. Well, I always start my show by asking, how did your spiritual journey with magic or witchcraft begin, and what did that look like for you?
Oh, okay. I mean, I think my parents named me Lilith, so always had an idea about the divine feminine and the goddess and sort of alternative spirituality despite what they were raised in, and how I came up. And I do have to mention it's my aunt's birthday today when we're taping this, and she used to do this, that she was a character, as Mac would have said. She used to do this thing where she would, like, channel Marie Laveau and sing all those old jazz songs about her when I was really little, like 3 or 4 or something. So I always heard about this magical voodoo queen in New Orleans, and yeah, I think I thought it was great, and it just kept going from there.
Ah, so you grew up in a kind of a magical family, do you think?
More in an intuitive kind of way, and then than a formalized way, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
It being I'm of a certain age, quote unquote. So
Yeah.
at that point, things were not as open and out there as they are now. So I think it was definitely a lot more low key than some of our younger generations of witches are used to nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So who do you think influenced you the most on your spiritual magical path? Did you go to school, go to college? Were there certain teachers or mentors that you
Yeah, yeah. There's so many. I mean, I did my undergrad. I started out at NYU doing my undergrad in film, and I made really strange and bizarre experimental films in the late 80s and early 90s. And people used to scratch their head and look at me strangely. And, and then I went on to get an undergraduate degree in anthropology. And at that point, I was totally studying magic. But, they say the thing about sometimes your bad teachers are the best teachers. And I had a professor that said there was no such thing as magic in the United States anymore. And I was like, you're a pale, stale, and male idiot. So I'm going to start writing about this and sort of dedicating my field of study to it. And wow, that was probably over 32, 33 years ago now.
Hmm. I was reading your amazing new book, Tarot Every Which Way, and I read a little blurb about Antonin Artaud and the Theater of Cruelty. And you took a class in that because I'm interested in knowing about that because he was a real avant-garde involved in mysticism and surrealism. And I think it's
Yeah.
kind of cool. You can maybe talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I took a class in Artaud and the Theater of Cruelty, specifically in transition towards film, because I also did my grad work in film in
Hmm.
cinema studies and anthro. And my professor, unfortunately, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but he was the curator for all of the Artaud art archives. And he had
Oh,
spent half the year teaching at NYU and half the year teaching at the Sorbonne in Paris, speaking about Artaud. And I was just sort of fascinated by it. And that was really the birth of this book, because what I had done as part of that class is come up with a tarot of cruelty. And for those who are unfamiliar with Artaud, cruelty is used in the most broadest sense of terms. I think it's more like of a shock value. I think that people
yeah.
would understand
Right.
it as, he talks about
Yeah.
doing a performance of King Lear with a 40-foot beard playing the character of King Lear, so things like that. So my tarot of cruelty was really designed to get people to understand the meanings of tarot on a deeper level. So as you see in this book, okay, maybe I don't understand tarot when it says this is what the star card means, but I understand what it feels like when I hold this crystal or when I plant this plant in my garden and it flourishes. Like there's so many other ways to experience it almost on a cellular transformational
Hmm.
level. And
Yeah.
that is kind of where I incorporated some of Artaud's techniques in there. And Artaud was such a mystic anyway, like he's talking about the Tarahumara in Mexico and all this really strange esoteric spirituality.
Yeah. I remember seeing some kind of performance in San Francisco, and it was based off a Artaud theater of cruelty, but I think it was a Balinese dancer with her fan and flashing lights, and it was really exotic and kind of surrealistic at the same time. But I never forgot it. But I think it was about
Yeah,
that
yeah.
visceral, primitive kind of feeling, raw emotions.
Yeah, yeah, right. What do they call a movement? Art brute, right? Like because so much of his writings and art and stuff like that came when he was, under treatment for
Yeah.
psychiatric issues.
Oh, yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
kind of like breakthrough in
Hmm.
these other realms of being
Interesting.
creatively. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was really an interesting point that you had written that in your book. And now it makes sense after reading your book, kind of his influence. So when did you become interested in tarot and tarot reading?
My mom, she still says she's going to give it to me. She had a first edition hardcover Toth deck, and book and deck. And when I was a kid, like, young, like when it first came out, right, in the 70s, I believe,
Uh-huh.
I wanted to get my hands on it. And she was just like, well, no, you have to wait till you're older and you have to start with the, Rider Waite Smith. And I was just so like, you know.
Yeah. Eager
I
to
think I
jump
was
in,
probably
right?
about maybe 14 or 15 when she finally let me like, take control of it. Like she trusted me not to, put down a soda or something like that on it.
When did you start doing tarot reading, professionally or just for friends, I guess?
I mean, I probably started. I had a really good friend in high school. Unfortunately, we're no longer friends, but we used to trade readings and do readings for each other. I think that a lot of people have a similar kind of thing,
Hmm.
growing up. We
Yeah.
started doing it probably when I was about 14 or 15, but I was always really fond of reading for myself too, that kind of teenage, desire to find out what's going to happen. Teenage has a lot of whatever, ups, downs, vicissitudes, that kind of thing. So I was always grabbing those cards. All right, what's going to happen? How's this interaction going to go? There's a lot of mean girls in my school.
Oh no. Oh.
Are these mean girls going to rear their ugly heads? So, yeah, so I did a lot of reading even before I started trading readings and whatnot. And then I started doing it professionally probably when I was about maybe 18, 19.
Oh, pretty young then. And you grew up in New Orleans, is that right?
No, I grew up in New York City. actually.
Oh, oh,
Brooklyn, represent. Yeah, yeah.
okay, yeah.
So
And then you went to NYU. Yeah, okay.
yeah, yeah. Somebody asked me another interview the other day about what was my first story, So I remember going into Magical Child and Enchantments and those old school stores back in the day, and again, just
Ah,
like trying to find my people, right? Like
yeah.
that's what we do. Hmm.
Yeah, oh, okay. Did you join a coven or any kind of circle or anything like that?
Not until much older. Not until much older. I mean, my best friend ran one of the biggest covens in New York City, so I would always do Sabbats and things like that with them, and I had individual teachers, but no kind of like real formalized teaching until probably I want to say, my mid-20s.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about your newest book, Tarot Every Which Way, and what inspired you to write it, and how does the reader work with your book?
The reader can work with the book however they want to. I kind of hope most of my books are you can read it cover to cover, or you can just go, oh, like I keep getting, this card over and over again. I mentioned the star before, so let's stick with that, right? Like, and not
Mhm.
maybe understanding how it's fitting into the situation, or why it keeps showing up, or what the symbolism is at this moment in space and time. No, and every pun intended. But I think that people can interact with it however they want to individually, or read it cover to cover. But the inspiration, as I said, it was partially Artaud. And then I had a client a long time ago, probably about 25 years ago, and she had a special needs child, and they were lashing out, acting very violent, and she was trying to figure out to interact with them in a more calm and peaceful manner. And I think that the true meaning of the cards was sort of lost on her. So I started to come up with, okay, well, here's the recipes, here's the herbs, here's the crystals that you should surround this person with in order to help them tap into that universal calm and peace and better be able to interact. And it worked wonderfully. And I started thinking, okay, well, there's got to be a way to get this energy and power of these cards across to somebody, even if they're 2 years old and they can't read, even if they're 100 years old and have dementia or some other kinds of special need. How can we do that? So I started chronicling all of that and asking everybody, and all of that came together in this book, along with, I think, probably over 10 years worth of interviews on my blog with some of the more popular tarot readers and authors and things like that, because I would never presume to say that I knew everything, even though I've, been reading for decades and decades. There's more than one way to attack a
Yeah,
problem, so
yeah.
that was important to me too.
Okay. Using symbols, correspondences, or herbs, crystals, changing up your altar. I mean, there's so many different levels to tarot reading, and you wanted to kind of incorporate all that into this book, right?
Yeah, I didn't necessarily want it to be an encyclopedia, but I wanted it someone who's a beginner can interact with it, because maybe they're used to working with crystals, but they're not really used to working with tarot, and then they can see the correspondences and how that plays out. Or maybe somebody's an expert, but they've never really worked with herbs before, and finally they have a chance to start a garden, and they want to start a garden based on a particular card or a particular energy or vibe that's
Hmm.
happening right now. They can use the book to do that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like this is a really in-depth manual almost. Like you could pick it up and work with it, put it down, work with your cards. I mean, it's more of a manual, I think.
It
Just
is, it is. Somebody called it like a mini encyclopedia, like there's just about everything in there, I think.
yeah. How can tarot deepen and strengthen our magic as witches? There's so many different types of witches, right? I mean, you have a whole chapter on the different types
Sure.
of.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it didn't used to be like that, right? Like if we look back in the history, there were, certain, different types of British traditional Wicca or something like that, but there
Hmm.
weren't the full range of, people really like to identify now as a green witch or a kitchen witch, and I think that's
Hmm.
great.
But using tarot, it has so many meanings to so many different people, and there's so many different levels. Is there like one card that you love, or do you have a favorite card or favorite spread?
I have, a couple of favorite cards. I think there's two New York City tarot decks. I mentioned I'm from New York. The second one was called The Tarot of the Burrows by George Courtney and Courtney Weber. And in that deck, I'm the High Priestess. So there's part of me that's always been a little bit partial to the High
Oh,
Priestess.
uh-huh.
General, like I just, being named Lilith and whatnot. But I do appreciate that divine feminine energy. And I think when it manifests in the deck, it's the kind of first time we really see that in its raw and extremely, powerful form.
Mm-hmm. And you're also a voodoo priestess. Do you want to talk a little bit about your voodoo background a little bit and how that
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
plays out in some of your books?
Yeah, sure. I have been probably a hoodoo and voodoo practitioner my whole life, but as I said, people didn't necessarily call it that when I was growing up. There were a lot of practices that I think is just what I grew up thinking, oh, this is what we do, right? Like, and not necessarily thinking of it in a formalized, magical
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And but I did join the Voodoo Spiritual Temple here in New Orleans, probably I want to say in like 92 or 93. And they've been there over 30 years. Priestess Miriam and Priest Ashwan run that temple. And I also now have my own voodoo temple called the
Oh.
House of Mama Brigitte. We've had that for about 15 years. I have my own
Oh.
students or godchildren that, we come together and they have initiations and they study and we have rituals and feasts and all the good things.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I just had
Yeah.
Pauline Breen on the show this year, and she wrote a book on Maman Brigitte, and fascinating goddess, fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, she totally is. Yes, yes.
And powerful.
Oh yeah.
And then you're also a filmmaker, is that correct?
Yeah, as I said, that's what I went to NYU for. I did my
Yeah.
undergrad production and my grad in cinema studies. So, just about, how we see witchcraft and magic and voodoo on film has always been one of my concentrations, and something that's really important to me. And I think the visual medium for me and being able to express that through film is always something that I was really interested in.
Mm-hmm.
For so many of us, right? I grew up with this Gen X latchkey kind of kid,
Yeah.
right? So the only thing that was there was the TV, right?
Right. Right.
So, okay, what am I going to see? What witches am I going to see? What are again, the divine feminine images that are going to come through in this way? So that seemed like, a friend to me when I was young.
Hmm.
So when I grew up, that's what I decided to study and concentrate on. We have our own YouTube show called the Papa Culture Show, me and my co-host Jason Winslade, and we talk about all different kinds of occult television and film and stuff like that. So I still do that. And I just finished a documentary for Bulbancha Public Access Radio. I hope I didn't get that wrong, here in New Orleans, but they have Indigenous Media Day. So I just
Hmm.
finished a piece for them for that.
Oh, that's awesome. So, what's your medium again? Is it video or is it actual like 16 millimeter
I
film?
haven't shot on 16 millimeter in a long time, although I think I still do have a camera in the closet
Isn't
somewhere.
that coming back? Maybe I'm totally wrong. I thought
It
it was
is
kind of
coming
coming
back.
back.
It is coming back. I think I have a Super 8. I think I have everything. I'm a bit of a hoarder of these things, but yeah. But no, I always like video better anyway,
Yeah,
just because it's easier to manipulate, and
sure.
especially now,
Oh, sure.
like I said, since I've been doing it for 30 years, it's
Yeah.
well, you don't have to cut the video. We used to,
Right.
kids today don't know, like we used to have to literally cut the video and tape it together.
Oh, I took a film class in when I was a teenager and I think I did have to splice it. I remember there was a
Hmm.
splicer machine and we
Yeah,
had
you had a little machine with
oh my
little
gosh.
sprockets in the tape, right? And you'd
Just
have to line it up and fold it
so
up. Yeah,
uh
yeah.
so
Hmm.
hard. Anyway, yeah, video is the medium. And you're also a choreographer, performer. Is that right? For Dr. John's
Yeah.
Night Tripper Voodoo Show? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Dr. John Mac Rebenak, he's no longer with us, unfortunately. But
Hmm.
back when I was a kid in the 70s, he had a night trip Voodoo Show, and he brought it back in the early 2000s. And I got a call saying, "Do you know anybody who could do these, sacred voodoo dances from the, you know, late 1800s, early 1900s that were done here in New Orleans?" And I thought about it for a minute and I was like, I can do it.
Yeah.
Because I'd always been a dancer, and I studied it. It's funny, like the history of dance on film and voodoo is almost like directly connected. We've got Zora Neale Hurston, dancer, Voodoo Priestess. We've got Catherine Dunham, dancer, Voodoo Priestess. You've got Maya Deren, dancer, Voodoo Priestess. So like there's all this anthropology that connects to dance and voodoo. So I
Mm-hmm.
was familiar with all the dances, and I told him, I was like, I can do it. And I auditioned and it was great. And I did that for years. We did Bonnaroo, we did Jazz Fest, like, and he was really like a dad to me, and I miss him a lot.
Yeah. Voodoo, that's part of their ritual is dancing.
Yeah, sure. There's almost always dancing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really important element of, I think, both honoring the Loa and the
Yeah.
Orisha and the energies, the Ashe, that's present, but also entering into trance states, right? Like the
Yeah.
repetition of the dance and the movement helps shift the space around you to enter into those alternate universes.
Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about the history behind the tarot and how it's evolved through time a little bit and why it's so popular now? There's a million gazillion decks out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because again, like we were saying back in the day, there was really only the Rider Waite Smith and the Toth deck, which are still the top two most popular decks,
Hmm.
sold in the world. But originally, it dates back to, I think, the 1400s in Italy. It was a game. The original cards, or some of the original Visconti Sforza cards, are on display in New York City if anybody wants to go hunt them down and take a look at them. But it slowly over time evolved into a divination system. Now,
Yeah.
there's a lot of controversy about what actually happened, and how it ended up being what we have today. But it certainly, as you mentioned, has really blown up, I think, in the past 20 or 30 years. And people love getting different decks. They love using different decks. They love, representing different their archetypes, right? Like even there's a
Hmm.
book on Jung and
Yeah.
the tarot, like representing these ideas, these mythic heroes and heroines and everything in between through the cards. So that to me, I think is beautiful. I mean, I as much as I am used to the older decks and those kinds of things, when I did this tarot every which way, I so wanted to have a whole bunch of different decks represented, So even though it has the Rider Waite Smith and has the Millennial Toth Tarot for some of the illustrations, it's like Tarot of the Vampires is on the cover, which I absolutely adore. There's the Santa Muerte Tarot, because again, I wanted to be inclusive. There's the Tarot of the Mermaids, which is a beautiful deck. And it was just because people see things in different ways, right? Like the same
Hmm.
way that I was talking about, oh, somebody might associate the lovers with rose quartz. Somebody else might actually associate the lover's card with a red rose. Like both of those are valid, but if you have a go-to and you want to use it, then lean into it, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah. It's very subjective.
It is, it is.
Let's talk about, okay, maybe the Wheel of Fortune card. Because that keeps coming up for me. I was just curious, what kind of herbs or elements or crystals or spells can I do if
I
I
was
keep.
just talking about this the other day. I was just talking about this because for me, the Wheel of Fortune is so important and sensitive to what your question is or what it
Yeah.
is you're asking about, right? Like, because it represents this thought that everything's completely in flux, everything, the wheel is always turning, right? Over and over and again and again. I was talking about it the other day, and one of the crystals that I absolutely, minerals, whatever, gemstones that I absolutely love is Starlight, and it forms like an actual cross. And
Starlights, STAR.
Aurolite.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They call
Starlight.
it fairy cross. Sometimes people associate it with Christ because it makes more of an equal armed cross than a Christ looking cross. But
Oh yeah, when you hold it up to the light. Interesting. I didn't. Oh, okay.
yeah, the crystals form in cross-like shapes on a base, right? Like so
Yeah.
it literally looks like there's crosses. So for us, again, not just in African traditional religion, but a lot of, folklore and things, magic happens at the crossroads, right? There's
Yeah.
possibility of going in each direction. So I
Absolutely.
think this particular stone gets associated with it because it
Hmm.
helps you refine which direction is the best road for you to take.
Mm-hmm.
And it also has that kind of like trickiness. This is something, hence being called the fairy cross, right? So it has this energy of the crossroads where it can also be tricky, not necessarily all the roads are going to lead to the same place, So it's about being able to navigate that difficult in between spaces and move
Hmm.
forward both into the future and with the knowledge of the past and the present with you. So
Hmm.
that's a good one. I always think of if
Yeah.
you keep
Thank
getting Wheel of
you.
Fortune. You can put it in your pocket, you can put it in
Yeah.
your tarot bag. I'm always telling people to put things under their pillow if they sleep alone. If they're doing other stuff, then, you know.
Yeah, and maybe not so great. Cards flying out everywhere.
No, that's a whole nother book, whatever. Anyway, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's a
so
thought.
that's cool. And I just wanted to give you a few minutes at the very end to do a tarot card meditation of your choice from your book. But I wanted to ask you, do you have any upcoming plans for the future, such as new books, events, workshops?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I have a lot of this stuff going on. I'm doing a multi-week workshop. I think it's 6 weeks for morbid anatomy, and it's online, and that starts in the middle of October. This is the first time I've ever done one with morbid anatomy. That's 6 weeks long. It's the first time I've ever done one, I think, in years that's this
That's a
long. And
long time.
it is long. It's going to be great, though. I'm
Yeah.
excited. It's going to be more of an in-depth look. You mentioned Mama Brigitte at African traditional religions, at connecting to your own ancestors, at understanding the differences between some of these African traditional religions. And yeah, that to me, I think is going to be wonderful. So I'm really excited about
Yeah.
that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm doing two other online events as well. Everybody can find everything though on my website, lilithdorsey.com. And I'm also going to be, now that I think of it, I'm going to be in New York for the Occult Humanities Conference in the middle of October as well, which back to my alma mater, NYU.
So great. That's where it's being held at. That's
Yes, yes.
oh. Well, I have a niece who graduated from there and she's now working at NBC Studios. So
Oh, wow, so cool.
yeah, but yeah, that school has a really long and rich tradition of really famous filmmakers and so cool that you went there.
Yeah, definitely. I got there, I think, right after Spike Lee for my undergrad, and that was a trip. I think M. Night Shyamalan was in my class. Yeah,
Oh,
it was a trip.
really?
It was a trip. Yeah, yeah. Everybody's like, what were his films like? I was like, they weren't really very memorable.
Oh, really? Oh. Well, being a student, you're just trying new things and stretching your
Yeah,
reach.
and we had some, our films, mine and my friends' films were more like John Waters. You know what I mean? There was no there was
Yeah.
some strange stuff happening when we were in film school.
But that's part of being an artist is just
Sure. Yeah.
stretching the boundaries, activating your vision.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely,
Lilith, I'm gonna leave you a few minutes here to do your tarot card meditation.
All right, cool. Let's do this. I was trying to figure out what one to do today, and then I had already seen, I think, somewhere that when we're recording it, it's Firefly Day, shiny, let's be bad guys. As I mentioned, I'm a big pop culture person. So Serenity Firefly is one of my favorites. And I pulled a card for what I should do the meditation on today. And it came up the star in the TV tarot, which actually looks very similar to the Serenity Firefly. It's got Kaylee, with two
Ah.
cans pouring water into like the lake with the ship behind her. So I think that, this is just sort
Okay.
of perfect. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to read this meditation from my book.
Okay.
Dreams and destiny are the watchword for the star card. In this journey meditation, the seeker will go to the stars and back to find what their destiny holds. For this working, you can use the traditional imagery detailed in the following, or choose a star card from your favorite deck and use that image as your focus. Get comfortable and sit down. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Repeat. When you are completely ready, picture yourself at the top of a staircase. The steps before you are numbered in descending order. You are at the top step. On it is written clearly the number 10. See both of your feet on this topmost step. Clearly look at the number written there. When you are ready, slowly step down to number 9. See the number written there. Look carefully at what is in front of you. When you see it clearly, step down to number 8. Continue stepping down through the numbers. Down to 7, 6, 5. See the numbers and your feet going down to step number 4, further down to number 3, then number 2, then lastly down to number 1. When you get to the bottom of the stairs, you see a large dark blue door. Turn the handle and step into the universe of the star card. When you walk through the door, you are entering into a universe of both light and life. The distance you have experienced until now is changed into a glorious presence. Here, you are not bound by gravity. Here, you float effortlessly through the stars, through space. In this realm, you see one star that is brighter than all the others. It sings to you as you move closer to it. You see it radiate the spectrum of all colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet are all present here. How do you feel basking in its light? It will help to answer these questions aloud, even if you are alone. Why did this star call you to it? Your fingers and toes begin to tingle as you uncover its secrets and powerful beauty. Take it all in. Breathe and take it all in some more. When you are done bathing in its light, travel back to the door you originally came through. Remember, you can return here anytime you like. When you return to the blue door, turn the handle and step through. Directly in front of you are the same numbered steps you came down earlier. Now you are going to slowly walk up these stairs, back to the world of the present you left before. See your feet climbing up the first step to the second one, then on to the third step, the fourth, going higher and higher up to the fifth step, the sixth, the seventh. Continue on up and up to the eighth, the ninth, the 10th. Now you are all the way back at the top step. You can now open your eyes. You can repeat this whenever the star card comes up in a prominent place in your reading.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I was lost in the cosmos there. So we just have a few more minutes, and I just wanted to thank you, Lilith, for inspiring and empowering us with the magic of tarot and elevating card divination to a more experiential and richer level to enhance our witchcraft. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was delightful. I had such a
Yeah.
wonderful time.
Yeah, blessed be. And thanks to all our listeners.
For listening.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot. Signing off. Bye-bye.
Bye.